Welcome to the 23rd chapter of the book of Acts. We're continuing with Paul. He's now facing his accusers in front of the Romans, and it begins in verse 1. And Paul, gazing upon the Sanhedrin, the Synedrio, is a transliteration into Sanhedrin, Epan said, Men, brothers, Andres, android, is a derivative at Adelphi, Philadelphia. Ego, ego, is a derivative for that word, the three derivatives in a row. Men, brothers, I in all good conscience have conducted myself in public to God as far as this day. Theology. Emeris, ephemeral, the derivatives. I've conducted myself in public to God. It's more or less saying I can stand in front of God, and what I've done is the right thing in front of him. But the chief priest, Ananias, gave orders to the one standing beside him to strike his mouth. This Ananias will go to the Wikipedia, and here is Ananias, son of Nedabeos. He's a different high priest than Caiaphas. Caiaphas was during Jesus. There was another Annas, and there was an Ananus, the family, different brothers. But this was a later high priest. And it says here, being a friend of the Romans, he was murdered by the people at the beginning of the first Jewish-Roman war. You can go to Wikipedia and read that. And so this Ananias gave orders to the one standing beside him to strike his stomach. Stomatos has to do with the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God is about to beat you, O wall being whitewashed. And you, do you sit down judging me according to the law? Am acting unlawfully, you bid me to be struck. I'm not an expert on Jewish law, rabbinic law, and if this was allowed to strike him or not. Apparently it's not, because Paul was a Pharisee and he knew the law very well. So apparently this wasn't according to the law, and he's bringing this up. And the one standing beside said, the chief priest of God you revile? Archiarea is a word that has two derivatives, architect, a chief, and iarea, the hieroglyphics. The hiero is a priestly writing. The chief priests of God do you revile? And Paul said, I knew not, brothers, that he is chief priest. Well, now, either he didn't or he did. And he knew this was the high priest. So what is he saying here? I knew not, brothers, that he is high priest, for it has been written. So apparently he's saying, well, if he was the high priest, he wouldn't be doing what is against the high priest's law to do, and sort of using this as a sarcastic way. For it has been written, you shall not speak ill of a ruler of your people. Well, he didn't speak ill of him, but he's bringing that out, that you shouldn't do that. But I mean, he knows who he is, but he's certainly not giving him the recognition of a godly high priest. And Paul, having known that the one part is of Sadducees and the other of Pharisees, cried out in the Sanhedrin. Paul knew what was going on, so much that he'd started a schism between the two factions that were there. Let's go back to Wikipedia, and we'll see that right here is the Pharisees. You can go in the Wikipedia and read all about the Pharisees. The Pharisees became basically the beginnings of later Judaism after the destruction of the temple. Over here we have the Sadducees, were the group that didn't believe in the resurrection. They basically ceased to exist at the time of the destruction of the Second Temple. They were mainly in the upper class peoples of Jerusalem. You can read more about it in these places. He cried out in the Sanhedrin, Men, brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of a Pharisee. Concerning hope and a resurrection of dead ones, I am judged. Well, the Sadducees, of course, don't believe in the resurrection, so he's right here causing a schism between the two. Necropolis is a cemetery. And this he having said, there became a faction between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So they started yelling at each other and probably shaking their fists and all kinds of things over the resurrection and what he's saying. And the multitude was split. For the Sadducees indeed say to not be a resurrection, nor angel, nor spirit. We know that from the days of Jesus when the Sadducees came and they gave the instance of making up the story of this woman who was married to these 7 husbands, and each one died childless, and in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? That was the Sadducees. But the Pharisees acknowledge both, the resurrection, angels, and spirit. And there became a great cry, a megali, and the mega, great. And having risen up, the scribes of the part of the Pharisees disputed violently. The scribes are more the lawyers, the ones that really know the law. So they're the ones that are really up in arms and start disputing violently, saying, well, nothing bad do we find in this man. Kakon. We have a kaka of something that's bad, and evrisko, eureka. I found it, to find something, eureka. But if also a spirit spoke to him, or an angel, we should not fight against God. So they're bringing out their belief on the Sadducees. And there being a great faction, the commander being cautious, lest Paul be pulled apart by them, bid the military to go down and seize him from out of the midst of them. So now the commander is watching all this, knowing that he's a Roman, and they're all in uproar and yelling and screaming and becoming violent. And so the commander's, this gets worse. He's going to grab this Roman and to lead him into the camp. That was the fortress of Antonia, probably. It was right there on the Temple Mount. And the following night, nikti, nocturnal is a derivative, standing by him, the Lord said, here Jesus is speaking to Paul in the temple, in the fortress of Antonia, part of it. And he says, take courage, Paul. For as you testified the things concerning me in Jerusalem, so you must also testify in Rome. Martyrise, martyr, to be a martyr and testifying in the Greek. So you must testify in Rome. So Jesus is sending Paul to Rome. And becoming day, some of the Jews, having made a confederacy, devoted themselves, saying, to neither eat nor drink until they should kill Paul. The phagin, the phag, has to do with the epiphagus. I can't even say the word. Epiphagus, whatever is in the throat. And the ones making for this 5 conspiracy were more than 40. 14, who, having come forward to the chief priests and to the elders, the presbyteries, Presbyterian derivative, said, we devoted ourselves to consumption, to not taste one thing until of which we should kill Paul. We're going to die if we don't kill him. Now then, you reveal, here's their plan. Now then you, that is the chief priests and the ones that are talking to the Romans, reveal yourselves to the commander with the Sanhedrin, so that tomorrow he should lead him to you, as being about to determine more exactly the thing concerning him. And we, before his approaching, are prepared to do away with him. Reminds me of Julius Caesar and Brutus. And the son of the sister of Paul, having heard, and is a young man, hearing the ambush, having come and entered into the camp, reported it to Paul. So he went to visit his uncle in jail, and he tells him what's going on. And Paul, having called one of the centurions, said, "Take this young man to the commander, for he has something to report to him." Heliarchon is a Chilia is 1,000, and archon a ruler of 100. Thousands here. A centurion is a ruler of 100. For he has something to report to him. There's the alpha gamma gamma. Report, message, something to do with saying. Then indeed, having taken him, that is the commander, he brought him to the commander and says, the centurion, "The prisoner Paul, having called me, asked me to lead this young man to you, having something to say to you." And the commander, having taken hold of his hand, and having withdrawn in private, inquired, "What is it which you have to report to me?" Gently taking this young man instead of being mean, scaring him to death. He had a heart, because he took him by his hand and led him into this room in private and asked. And the young man said that the Jews agreed to ask you that tomorrow you should lead Paul into the Sanhedrin as being about something to more exactly ascertain concerning him. So the Sanhedrin is going to come and want to know more about what he said and to bring him in front of them so they can ask him. But the child says, "You then should not be persuaded by them, for they lie in wait for him. More than 40 men from them who devoted themselves unto consumption to neither eat nor drink, until of which they should do away with him. And now they are ready, waiting a promise from you." And there's the epangelion, a promise. It has something to do with an announcement or a speech, or in here it's a promise. Then the commander dismissed the young man. Parageles, there's a there's prepositions in front of the root part of the word. Exhorting, saying, "Divulge to no one that these things were revealed to me." Don't tell anybody. And having called on 2 certain centurions, he said, "Prepare 200 soldiers that they should go unto Caesarea." So 2 centurions on the 100 men, 200 men. They're going to Caesarea. So here's our map, and they are in Jerusalem, and they're going to go way up here to Caesarea, but they cut across. It says this way to Antipatria, and then up to Caesarea. The forces drop off, and then just some men on horse go on up. And 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen from the 3rd hour of the night. So in the middle of the night, this large force takes this one man to go to Caesarea. And present beasts that Paul, setting on one, they should deliver him to Felix, the governor. The Roman governor of this area, Felix, and they're sending this letter by these men, and it says, having a letter written containing this impression. And we have Claudius Lysias was the name of the commander, to the most excellent governor Felix. Hail! Hegemonia, hegemon, is a derivative. Herein, cheer, is the derivative for this hail. This man, having been seized by the Jews, and being about to be done away with by them, attending with the military, I rescued him, having learned that he is a Roman. Well, that woke up his ears, I'm sure. Stratevmati, strategy, the military, the derivative. Felix heard that he's a Roman, and they're going to kill a Roman. Well, that was a big no-no. And wanting to know the reason for which they accused him, I led him down unto their Sanhedrin, whom I found to be accused concerning matters of their law. Nomon, astronomy was a derivative. But 2, having not one indictment worthy of death or bonds. An axiom, something worthy saying, is a derivative for that word. And having been indicated to me of a plot against the man, being about to be by the Jews, immediately I sent forth to you, exhorting also the accusers to say the things against him unto you. Be in health. There is a parangelis, exhorting in the category, the accusers. The soldiers then, according to the thing being set in order to them, having taken Paul, led him through the night unto Antipatrithi. And the next day they allowed the horsemen to go with him, and they returned into the camp. They're all on foot. A long ways to go on foot from Jerusalem to Antipatris. And now they're going to go back, but the horsemen are going to continue. Who, having entered into Caesarea, and having delivered the letter, the epistle, the letters of Paul, this is an epistle, to the governor, presented also Paul to him. And the governor, having read it, and having asked from out of what jurisdiction he is, as a Roman, and having ascertained that he is from Cilicia, said, I will hold a hearing for you whenever also your accusers should come. And he bid him to be kept in the praetorium of Herod. And we will continue this as Paul is in Caesarea and the praetorium of Herod in the custody of Felix, and go through all this in our 24th chapter. And I hope you'll join us, and God bless.